Human history didn't just invent laws to punish criminals, it invented ways to make punishment unforgettable. From ancient empires to medieval Europe, some punishments were designed not simply to kill, but to terrify everyone watching. Here are some of the most brutal punishments ever recorded, starting with the horrifying and ending with the truly unthinkable. Scaphism. Imagine being trapped inside two wooden boats, unable to move, while insects slowly discover you. Scaphism was an alleged ancient Persian punishment described by the Greek writer Plutarch. The victim was reportedly placed between two boats with only the head and limbs exposed. Milk and honey were applied to the body, while more was forced down the victim's throat. The person was then left exposed to the sun and insects. As the hours and days passed, insects were attracted to the victim. Bites, infection, dehydration, and starvation could eventually lead to death. The disturbing part wasn't just the physical suffering, it was the waiting. Your executioner didn't need to stay. Nature was apparently given the job. Historical evidence for Scaphism is limited, but the account has survived for centuries as one of antiquity's most horrifying alleged punishments. Number 5. The Brazen Bull. Ancient Greece had a punishment that sounds almost too horrifying to be real. The Brazen Bull was a hollow bronze statue shaped like a bull, traditionally associated with the ancient city of Agrigentum in Sicily. According to ancient accounts, a condemned person was placed inside the metal animal. Then, a fire was lit underneath. The bronze became unbearably hot. The design allegedly included tubes that transformed the victim's screams into sounds resembling the roar of a bull. Imagine being in a crowd watching a beautiful bronze statue and realizing the sound coming from it was a human being. Whether every detail of the story is historical is debated, but the legend became one of the most famous examples of punishment designed as both execution and psychological theater. Apparently, ancient tyrants didn't believe ordinary screaming was dramatic enough. Number 3. Lingchi. For centuries, Imperial China used a punishment that became known in the West as Lingchi, often translated as death by 1,000 cuts. It was traditionally associated with serious crimes, especially crimes considered threats to the state or family order. The condemned person was restrained while an executioner inflicted repeated cuts. The exact procedure varied across periods and accounts, and popular descriptions often exaggerate the details. But the purpose was clear. Punishment wasn't supposed to be quick. It was meant to become a public spectacle of suffering. The execution itself was only part of the punishment. The humiliation and fear surrounding it were equally important. In 1905, the Qing government officially abolished Lingchi. By then, the punishment had already become one of the darkest symbols of imperial justice. Number 3. Drawing and quartering. In medieval and early modern England, certain crimes against the state could result in a punishment so severe that death was only one part of it. The infamous sentence was known as hanged, drawn, and quartered. The condemned person could be dragged to the place of execution, hanged, cut down while still alive, and then subjected to further mutilation. The body could ultimately be divided and displayed. This wasn't accidental. The public display was part of the message. The authorities wanted everyone watching to understand exactly what happened to people who challenged the crown. The punishment was eventually restricted and then abolished, but for centuries, the execution site wasn't just a place to kill someone. It was a giant warning sign made out of a human body. Number 2. Impalement. Few punishments are as instantly terrifying as impalement. The method involved forcing a long wooden stake through the body, although historical methods varied significantly. One of the rulers most famously associated with impalement was Vlad III of Wallachia in the 15th century. His enemies reportedly found entire fields filled with impaled bodies. Whether every famous story about Vlad is accurate is difficult to determine, but the psychological purpose was unmistakable. The victims weren't always removed. They were left where others could see them. The message was brutally simple: come closer and you might be next. And that brings us to number 1. Number 1. The most terrifying punishment wasn't always death. Some punishments were designed around something even fiercer than immediate death: being forgotten. Throughout history, societies used exile, imprisonment, isolation, and public erasure to completely separate people from their families and communities. One of the most haunting examples is prolonged solitary confinement. Unlike a spectacular execution, isolation can remove almost everything that makes a person feel human: conversation, stimulation, social contact, and even a reliable sense of time. There is no crowd, no dramatic weapon, no final speech, just silence. And that's what makes this category so disturbing. Human beings can survive extraordinary physical pain, but complete social isolation attacks something deeper: the need to connect with other people. The methods of punishment changed throughout history, but the underlying idea remained surprisingly consistent. Punishment wasn't always about making someone suffer. Sometimes it was about making everyone else afraid to become that person. And perhaps the darkest part of history isn't discovering how cruel humans could be. It's realizing how often cruelty turned into a system.